Self-doubt, that voice in your head that whispers you're not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough, it's the invisible force that stops more dreams than failure ever could. But here's what most people don't realize about self-doubt. It's not actually about your abilities. It's about the stories you tell yourself, and those stories can be rewritten. The chemicals that create self-doubt in your brain last exactly 90 seconds. After that, you're choosing to keep feeding it. This isn't motivational fluff. This is neuroscience. Every time you catch yourself spiraling into self-doubt, you have a 90-second window where the feeling will naturally dissipate unless you keep the circuit going with your thoughts. Think about this. You've survived every challenge you've faced so far. Every moment of uncertainty, every setback, every time you thought you couldn't handle something, you found a way through. That's not luck, that's evidence. But self-doubt has a way of making you forget your own track record. Chapter 1, The Doubt Spiral Decoded. Self-doubt isn't random. It follows predictable patterns, and once you understand these patterns, you can interrupt them. Most people experience self-doubt as this overwhelming, chaotic force, but it's actually quite systematic. It starts with a trigger, usually comparison or anticipation of judgment. Then comes the story, the narrative your brain creates about what this trigger means about you. Finally, there's the feeling, the emotional response to that story. Here's the thing though, the trigger isn't the problem. The story is. Same trigger, different story, completely different outcome. Let's say you're about to give a presentation and you notice your hands shaking. The self-doubt story goes like this. I'm shaking because I'm not prepared enough. Everyone will notice. I'm going to embarrass myself. I shouldn't be here. But you could tell yourself a different story. My body is getting ready to perform. This energy means I care about doing well. Even experienced speakers feel this way. Same shaking hands, completely different emotional outcome. Your brain is like an overly dramatic narrator. It takes normal human experiences and turns them into epic tales of inadequacy. Oh, you made a mistake. Clearly, you're a fraud who will be exposed any minute now. You don't know something? Obviously, you're intellectually inferior to everyone around you. Meanwhile, everyone else is dealing with their own internal narrator doing the exact same thing. The spotlight effect plays a huge role here. You assume everyone is watching your every move, analyzing your flaws, keeping score of your mistakes. But here's the reality. Most people are too busy worrying about their own performance to scrutinize yours. Think about the last meeting you attended. Can you remember the small mistakes others made? Probably not, because you were focused on your own contributions and concerns. Chapter 2, The Comparison Trap. Social media has weaponized comparison. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes struggles with everyone else's highlight reel. You see someone's success, and immediately your brain starts the calculation. They're younger than me, they started later than me, they have less experience than me. Therefore, I must be failing somehow. But comparison is using the wrong measuring stick. You're measuring your chapter 3 against someone else's chapter 20. You're comparing your rough draft to their published work. You're comparing your learning process to their final product. It's like comparing a seed to a tree and concluding the seed is broken. Here's what successful people understand about comparison. It's only useful when it's strategic. Instead of asking, why am I not as good as them, ask, what can I learn from their approach? Instead of feeling threatened by someone's success, get curious about their process. The goal isn't to eliminate comparison entirely, it's to make it work for you instead of against you. Your brain has this feature called negativity bias. It's designed to keep you alive by focusing on potential threats. But in modern life, this same mechanism treats a difficult conversation the same way it would treat a charging lion. Your brain can't tell the difference between actual danger and social discomfort, so it responds to both with the same intensity. This is why self-doubt feels so real and urgent. Your brain is literally treating your insecurities like survival threats. But once you understand this, you can start talking to your brain differently. Instead of fighting the feeling, you can acknowledge it. Thanks for trying to keep me safe, brain, but this presentation isn't actually life-threatening. Chapter 3, The Confidence Confusion. Most people think confidence comes from feeling certain about outcomes, but that's not confidence, that's delusion. Real confidence comes from trusting your ability to handle whatever happens. It's not, I know I'll succeed, it's I know I'll figure it out. Confidence isn't the absence of doubt, it's acting despite the doubt. Every confident person you admire has moments of uncertainty. The difference is they've learned to move forward anyway. They've developed what psychologists call distress tolerance, the ability to sit with uncomfortable feelings without being paralyzed by them. Think about learning to drive. At first, every decision required conscious thought. Check mirrors, signal, check blind spot, turn. It was overwhelming because your brain was processing every single step. But eventually, these actions became automatic. Confidence works the same way. The more you practice acting despite doubt, the more natural it becomes. Here's something nobody talks about. Confidence is contextual. You might feel completely confident in one area of your life and completely inadequate in another. That's normal. Confidence isn't a personality trait. It's a skill that develops through experience in specific domains. The person who seems confident in everything has simply had more practice in more areas. The imposter syndrome everyone talks about? It's just the gap between your internal experience and external perception. You know all your struggles, uncertainties, and moments of confusion. Others only see your output. This creates the illusion that everyone else has it figured out while you're just winging it. Plot twist. Everyone's winging it to some degree. Chapter 4. The Perfectionism Prison. Perfectionism isn't about having high standards. It's about having impossible standards. It's the difference between striving for excellence and being paralyzed by the fear of imperfection. Perfectionists don't produce better work. They produce less work because they're too afraid to start or too afraid to finish. The perfectionist's dilemma. You can't improve what you don't complete. You can't get feedback on work that never sees the light of day. You can't learn from mistakes you're too afraid to make. Perfectionism masquerades as a virtue, but it's actually a sophisticated form of procrastination. Here's the counterintuitive truth. Embracing imperfection accelerates improvement. When you accept that your first attempt will be flawed, you free yourself to begin. When you expect mistakes, you're not devastated by them. When you view failure as data rather than judgment, you iterate faster. The 80% rule changes everything. If you wait until something is perfect, you'll wait forever. But if you aim for 80% and then improve through iteration, you'll actually reach higher levels of quality faster than if you tried to perfect it in isolation. Done is better than perfect because done can be improved. Perfect is theoretical. Think about your favorite creators, artists, or professionals. Go back and look at their early work. It's not as polished as their current output, but it exists. They got better by doing, not by waiting until they were ready. They built their skills in public, learned from feedback, and improved through repetition. Chapter 5. The Action Antidote. Self-doubt thrives in hypothetical scenarios. It loves to create elaborate stories about what might go wrong, how people might react, what could happen if you fail. But self-doubt withers in the face of actual experience. Action is the antidote to anxiety. The 5-minute rule breaks the paralysis. Tell yourself you only have to work on something for 5 minutes. No commitment beyond that. Often, starting is the hardest part, and 5 minutes of action generates momentum that carries you forward. Even if you stop after 5 minutes, you've proven to yourself that you can begin. Micro actions compound into major changes. You don't need to transform overnight. You need to take the smallest possible step toward what you want. Want to start a business? Research one competitor today. Want to learn a skill? Watch one tutorial? Want to improve a relationship? Send one thoughtful message. Small actions build evidence that you're capable of change. The key is focusing on process over outcome. You can't control whether people will like your work, but you can control whether you create it. You can't control whether you'll get the job, but you can control how well you prepare for the interview. You can't control other people's reactions, but you can control your own actions. Every time you act despite feeling doubtful, you're rewriting the story your brain tells about who you are. You're creating evidence that contradicts the narrative of inadequacy. You're proving to yourself that feelings don't dictate actions, that you can feel uncertain and still move forward. Chapter 6. The Evidence File. Your brain has a selective memory when it comes to your capabilities. It remembers every mistake in vivid detail but forgets your successes and accomplishments. This isn't personal, it's biological. Your brain is designed to focus on problems that need solving, not victories that are already won. Creating an evidence file counteracts this tendency. Keep a record of your accomplishments, positive feedback, challenges you've overcome, and skills you've developed. This isn't about ego or bragging, it's about maintaining an accurate perspective on your abilities. When self-doubt strikes, you have concrete evidence to reference. Include different types of evidence. Times you learned something difficult, moments when you helped others, challenges you thought you couldn't handle but did, skills that seemed impossible when you started but are now second nature, people who have benefited from your work or presence, problems you've solved, relationships you've built, progress you've made. Update it regularly. Every week, add something new. It doesn't have to be monumental. Maybe you had a difficult conversation you were avoiding. Maybe you figured out a technical problem. Maybe you received a compliment or helped a colleague. These small pieces of evidence accumulate into a compelling case for your competence. When doubt creeps in, review your evidence file. Not to convince yourself you're perfect, but to remind yourself that you're capable. You've grown before, you can grow again. You've handled uncertainty before, you can handle it again. You've figured things out before, you can figure them out again. Chapter 7. The Growth Mindset Shift. Fixed mindset says I'm not good at this. Growth mindset says I'm not good at this yet. That one word changes everything. It transforms a permanent limitation into a temporary condition. It shifts focus from current ability to future potential. Self-doubt often stems from fixed mindset thinking. If you believe abilities are static, then struggling with something means you lack the capacity to improve. But if you believe abilities can be developed, then struggling simply means you're in the learning phase. Same struggle, completely different meaning. The word yet is incredibly powerful. I don't understand this yet. I haven't figured this out yet. I'm not confident at this yet. It implies that change is possible, that your current state isn't your final destination. It creates space for growth and learning. Reframe challenges as opportunities to develop new capabilities. Instead of "this is too hard," try "this will help me grow." Instead of "I'm not smart enough," try "I need to learn more about this." Instead of "I always mess this up," try "I'm still learning how to do this well." Small shifts in language create big shifts in mindset. Celebrate the process, not just the outcomes. Acknowledge when you try something difficult, when you persist through frustration, when you ask for help, when you learn from mistakes. These process victories build confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes next. Chapter 8. The Support Network. Self-doubt is amplified by isolation. When you're alone with your thoughts, they can spiral unchecked. But when you connect with others, you often discover that your struggles aren't unique or insurmountable. Sometimes just voicing your doubts reduces their power. Build relationships with people who know your worth, especially when you forget it yourself. These aren't people who give you empty reassurance, but people who can remind you of your strengths and past successes when you're caught in self-doubt. They provide perspective when you're too close to the situation to see clearly. Find mentors who have walked similar paths. They can normalize the doubt you're experiencing and share how they move through it. They can help you distinguish between reasonable caution and paralyzing fear. They can remind you that everyone feels uncertain when they're growing. Surround yourself with people who are also growing and learning. When everyone around you is playing it safe, taking risks feels dangerous. But when you're surrounded by people who are pushing their own boundaries, growth feels normal. Environment shapes expectations. Be willing to be vulnerable about your struggles. When you pretend to have everything figured out, you rob yourself of the support and guidance others could offer. When you share your real challenges, you often discover that others have faced similar issues and can offer valuable insights. Self-doubt isn't a character flaw, it's a normal part of the human experience. Everyone feels it, but not everyone lets it stop them. The goal isn't to eliminate doubt entirely, it's to develop the skills to move forward despite it. To act even when you're uncertain, to try even when you might fail, to grow even when it's uncomfortable. Remember, your doubt is not evidence of your inadequacy. It's evidence that you care about doing well, that you're pushing beyond your comfort zone, that you're attempting something meaningful. The very fact that you experience self-doubt means you're engaged in the process of growth. The most successful people aren't those who never doubt themselves. They're those who doubt themselves and do it anyway. They've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of fear. They've discovered that confidence isn't a prerequisite for success, it's a byproduct of it. Your doubts will never completely disappear, but they don't need to. They can coexist with your actions, your growth, and your success. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. You can acknowledge your limitations and still pursue your goals. You can be imperfect and still be worthy of success. The next time self-doubt shows up, remember the 90-second rule. Feel the physical sensations, acknowledge the thoughts, but don't feed the story. Remember your evidence file, the challenges you've already overcome, the skills you've already developed. Remember that everyone feels this way sometimes. That doubt is not disqualification. Then take one small action toward what you want. Not because you feel confident, but because you're committed to your growth. Not because you know you'll succeed, but because you trust your ability to handle whatever happens. Not because doubt has disappeared, but because you've learned to act despite it. Your self-doubt will tell you to wait until you're ready. But here's the secret. You become ready by starting, not by waiting. You build confidence through action, not through thinking. You prove your worth to yourself by trying, not by playing it safe. The time to start is now, not when you feel more confident, not when you have more experience, not when conditions are perfect. Now, with all your doubts and uncertainties and imperfections, because that's how everyone starts and that's how you'll finish, by beginning exactly where you are.